Hi, I'm Tommy from AmateurLogic.tv.
And I'm George from AmateurLogic.tv and Ham Nation. And we're here today to look at another ICOM radio. You know, Ray was just here recently and we had a Smackdown contest going, but tonight, why don't we do a tag team?
All right, that works.
Yeah. We've got the IC2300H here. Nice little 2-meter radio from ICOM. This is my first time to see it, Tommy, and it does look nice. There's a few things about it I like just, you know, from the get-go here. One thing is there's a big heat sink on the back here to take all the heat away from the unit, so you don't really have to have a fan in it.
Yeah, and that thing stays really cool. One of the other features of it is it's got 65 watts of output power, and even with no fan back there, this heat sink does a great job of keeping the rig cool.
Yeah, it does. This is a mill standard 810G specification. It's a very rugged little rig. Be perfect for someone just getting into amateur radio or someone who just needed a 2-meter rig. It looks like it's pretty well feature packed. So let's get in and take a little look at it.
All right, let's do.
The first thing that's pretty neat about this rig is when you first power it on. It comes up and it'll give you a voltage display, 13.6 volts there.
Yeah, that's a pretty critical piece of information if you're running off of battery power.
Well, it is, and you know, that happened to me one time when I left the radio on while we went to Vegas for a week.
Yeah, it's pretty well dead, wasn't it?
Yeah, but this radio's got something to take care of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got automatic power off. If you leave it on for a certain amount of time, the radio will power itself down so you don't have to come back and find your battery flat dead and look for a tow truck.
And you can also set that so that you can disable it if you want to. Say if you're using this as a Echo Link node or some other function where you really wouldn't want it powering off.
Yeah, that's a great feature to have.
Yeah, and there's several different power levels on here. This one's got 4 different power levels, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can tap the low button here, and right now we're on low. You can tell by the indicator, and that's 5 watts, 10 watts, 25 watts, and then the full 65 watts of output power.
That is pretty neat. You know, most rigs will only have 2 settings there or 3, but I believe that's the first time I've seen 4 levels on a rig.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Sometimes 10's just not enough, and you really don't need 65.
Yeah, and it kind of save on your battery drain there too.
Right.
So just use however much you need, like we're supposed to in the rules anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, just the maximum amount of power necessary for communications, right?
Yeah, which for me, when I'm mobile, it's usually the maximum amount of power is necessary. Yeah. Well, a couple other things we can look at on here. You can switch between VFO, memory mode, weather priority function, and a regular priority function. Here, show us that.
We can toggle through all those from this button right here. This is the memory/call button. If you look right above, each of the buttons are labeled. They're dual functions. This one here has got the priority watch and the memory/call like I just mentioned. If we tap it one time, we'll toggle through to the call channel, to the weather, which is a good thing to have, especially around here, and back around to the memory channels.
Now, this has got weather alert function too, doesn't it? I mean, it'll automatically, if there's a bulletin.
Yeah, it does. And if you live in an area like we do, where it's prone to have tornadoes and bad weather, that's a good thing to have.
Yeah, I went looking for that on my rig the other day, and it doesn't have it.
Oops.
When those tornadoes were coming through. How do we get to the VFO on this rig?
The VFO button's right next to the memory one. So if we tap that, that puts us over into VFO mode, and then we can scroll through.
Now, you were on call channel a minute ago. Let's look back at that again.
Okay.
Now, you know, there's those that are new to ham radio that really don't know, you know, what a call channel might be, but that's like any channel that you use a lot that you just want to have handy. You can stick right there.
Yeah. Some people use it for like the national calling frequency as well, which is what we had it on a few moments ago, 146.52. That's usually what I put in mine, but you can put whatever your common one that you're on.
Yeah. That's what I do, is the simplex frequency we talk on most of the time. I leave in my call channel, and bam, just one button and I'm right on it there.
Okay. One thing we didn't show a while ago when we were on VFO, if you tap that, go back to VFO mode. If you tap it again, you can adjust the frequency, the megahertz, and down to the tens. And one more down into the single digits for the megahertz, and then you go down into the kilohertz after you tap it one more time.
So that saves a lot of knob spinning, I guess.
A lot of knob spinning, because when I first started playing with this thing and I tried to get it, I sat here and spun a long time.
You
Finally
did.
had to look it up.
There was smoke coming off of it over there. Well, let's look at a few of the other set features on here. There's what they call initial set mode on here that does some settings on the radio that you probably only need to do once.
Yeah, it kind of sets the default features of the radio, how you want them. To go into the initial set mode, you hold down that set button, which is the first function button on the bottom, while you power the rig up. It's usually not a two-man job, but the way we're set up here, it's a little easier.
There's several features on here. If we scroll on down, we'll see the one labeled POF here. This is the auto power off that we talked about a moment ago. That would have been handy for me to have.
This is the one that's going to keep you from walking home.
Exactly. Down a couple from that is the squelch delay. It says SQT. And this is pretty neat here. What this does, Tommy, is it allows you to set a delay on the squelch. You know when somebody's way out there and you're trying to listen to them and they're just barely making it and it's chopping in and out. You can set a delay there so that squelch will stay open a little bit longer, and then it won't break up quite as bad while you try to listen.
This is for that guy that you're trying to talk to that's running in Handy Talkie Mobile, right?
That is the guy. Yep, that's the exact one I was thinking of. A few steps below that, there's another one here that's labeled DSP. And no, that's not digital signal processing. What that actually is display type. And from here, we can make several settings.
Frequency, channel, which is, I think, where you can have it display whatever the text you enter.
Right.
And the number.
That means that we can have a display of the frequency, or we can have a channel number there. Or if we had programmed in alphanumeric text, we would actually see some letters across here telling us what that channel was.
Well, if we would have had it in that mode.
So Tommy, what do you say we actually program in an alphanumeric
I'm always game for an adventure.
It will be one because we've never done this before, but let's see how quick we can do it. So the first thing we need to do is get back into the initial set mode here.
We'll double team that.
Tag team. Okay, now we're on display and it sets a channel. Let's go on over to name. Well, we'll need to select a channel, but we've got it set for name now, so once this is programmed in, it should take effect. So we'll just tap the power button once just to get back into the regular mode there. Let's select one of our VFO channels there. Just scroll us up one there that we might like, Tommy. So which repeater is this, Tommy?
This is a club repeater, so I think it's the W5PFC repeater.
All right, let's program that into it.
Okay.
All right, the first thing we need to do is select the channel, which we've just done. And now we can do this from the hand mic. All right, so let's program a channel in here. The first thing we need to do is press function.
Function. It's lit up.
Yep, lit up red. The next thing we do is press A and M.
Where? Okay, press function. Then we'll press A and M.
And then we'll press set. And now we can scroll through and select the alphanumeric characters we need.
W5. I bet you this moves us to the right.
Now we'll go to a 5. P. F. C. And now we press the clear button and that should program it in. So now if we scroll through our memory channels there, we'll see number 0 is just a frequency.
Pretty sweet.
But number one there has actually got alphanumeric display of what we want. And now that we've got that programmed in, we can scroll through the memories, and anyone that we've left programmed with just a frequency shows up that way. But if we tune into one that's got the alphanumeric display in there, then it shows the characters that we put in. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. And it was pretty easy.
It was. Man, I keep feeling like there's something behind me, but I don't know what it is.
You bumping your head on that knob?
That must be. Now, if we want to get back to just displaying frequencies again, we can leave the alphanumeric display in there. We just go back into the initial set mode again, go back to display, and we'll just change it to FR there for frequency. And tap the power button, and now that one shows up as a frequency.
I actually like being able to have both of them.
That is pretty neat, because there's sometimes you just want to get back to the frequency display and not the alphanumerics, especially, you know, if you've forgotten what the call sign of the repeater is.
Actually, that's what I was thinking of when I said that.
Well, that kind of happened to me the other day, so yeah, I was thinking that too. There's a lot of other things this rig has got. You can store over 200 memory channels in it.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, and you can put them in banks to where you only scan what banks you're interested in, I believe.
You know, I think the most I've ever used in mine are maybe about 30 tops.
Yeah, probably so in this part of the country. That's, you know, would hold everything we need, but get into a bigger city or doing a little traveling, it could be handy to have.
Yeah, 200 should be more than enough.
Yeah, it's got the built-in CT, CSS, and DTCS encoder decoder functions in it, so that you can use tone squelch with the rig for those repeaters that have it. It's simple to operate too, and I like the display here, Tommy. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look at what some of these buttons on here do, or actually the names of them at this point.
Okay. Well, we've got the power button over here on the top. We did that a few minutes ago. Below it, there's this button. It's a dedicated one, which is pretty nice for writing memory channels to the radio. I think that's actually called the memory write button. We got the volume control, the squelch, depending on what mode you're in, this is either the VFO or the channel selector. Below it, there's hidden this little round button right here, which is the bank or option button. Over here, we've got the lock and set button. If you hold that button down, a key will appear on the display, and the rig is locked, so you can't really change any of the functions on it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. And then if you hold it again, that unlocks it. And if we tap that, we'll go into the set functions. So we'll go into those here in a few minutes, because there's a good bit of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
We've got the A&M button, which is what we use to change to the alphanumeric display. The monitor button. This is kind of cool. If you tap this, you're familiar with reverse, which kind of switches you to the input frequency of the repeater. It also opens the squelch. So if you've got a weak signal that you can't hear, they're not quite making the repeater.
Do that.
If we tap that, you see it change to the input frequency.
But it also opened up the squelch.
It also opened up the squelch. So if they're out there somewhere, you should be able to pull them in if they're got any signal at all. And tapping it again puts it back in the normal mode. Duplex, holding it down will change the duplex mode, which changes the repeater shift.
Yeah.
And we cycle through the power just by tapping it. We did that earlier. Tone scan, the tone button, which cycles you through the subaudible tones and all that. And then we've got the priority and the memory call channel button and the VFO and the scan button that we touched on a little bit earlier.
And if we hold that scan button in, will it scan through our memory channels there?
Sure will.
And it stopped on this one because there's somebody talking there.
Yeah, we got a net going on. Yeah, to get out of scan mode, just tap the scan button again and it'll stop.
Yeah. So what do you say now we take a look at some of the other set mode functions that are in the rig here?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And to enter that, you press what? Set?
Yeah, just tap that set button.
And we start out here, we're on the repeater tone frequency. You see it says RT on there, and that's repeater tone. We could scroll through here and select whatever tone we needed for the subaudible decoder on that particular repeater.
Right. One nice thing about the set mode of this radio, when we were toggling through the function buttons a few minutes ago, you could see the icons change for the subaudible tone and so forth. Well, the corresponding one is actually visible
While you're
in this set mode. So this is what you're going to be affecting.
All right, cool.
Kind of nice.
If we scroll on down a little bit, we'll see one called DIM, and that's the display dimmer. And what this does is allows us to set the brightness of the display there.
Yeah, baby gets on up there too, doesn't it?
Yeah, so at night you might not want it on number 4 right there if it's blinding you.
Right.
You know, you might want to drop that down to something more pleasant to look at. But this also has an auto dimmer in it. If you go on down one more there, you can turn the auto dimmer function on and off.
Oh,
and
cool.
what that does is it'll automatically dim the display down, and if you key the mic to talk on it, it'll brighten it back up so you can see where you are. And you know, that way you only have it bright when you actually need it that way.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. If we look down a little bit further in there, we'll see COL, and this allows us to set the display color.
Green, yellow, or amber.
Yeah.
Kind of like the green.
Yeah, green looks pretty good in my truck. It's, you know, it's got green dash lights in it, so that's, you know.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, so that's kind of the way I would run it. Now if we scroll on down, we've got the contrast setting there. Right below that we've got transmit permission, and we can turn this on and off to enable or disable the transmitter. So if you were going to be out of the rig and you didn't want your kids accidentally talking on the radio, you could just go here and turn that off.
Ah,
and
receive
now
only.
they can receive, but they can't transmit.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I would pay my kid to talk on the rig.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd pay mine.
If he get his license. But yours has got his license.
Well, one of them does. Yeah.
I bribed mine.
Didn't work.
No, not yet.
Yeah, well, I've had to give mine a couple of radios, but, you know,
Yeah.
He didn't get them until he got his license. If we scroll on down here a little further, we've got one W/N. Now, what do you think that means, Tommy?
I'm not sure.
That means wide or narrow for transmission and reception. You know, we would typically, as hams, we'll be using it, you know, on wide, but, you know, now the commercial radios and all, they're making those narrow, and some hams may be using, you know, narrow bandwidths there, and this allows you to select which mode you want to run this radio in.
Okay.
And if we go on down below that, we've got another one here. It's Alt or actually ALT. Same thing as Alt, but what do you think that means?
I wish I knew. What does it mean? I'll come up with the answer.
It means weather alert.
Oh, man. And we were just talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the set function was for it.
And we've got it on off. We should probably turn that on so that...
Well, we needed it a couple days ago.
Yeah, so if there's a weather bulletin now, it doesn't matter what we're doing, this thing will automatically flip over just like a weather radio.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Some other settings in here. You've got an easy way to set your mic gain here for high or low, just depending on how loud you talk, I guess.
Yep. I probably need to jack that up for myself. I'm not that loud. Well, this thing's got quite a few memory channels. Do you have to put all 200 of those in by hand, or is there software available to be able to program that?
Actually, there is. It's, let me look here at my cheat sheet. It's CS2300H cloning software you can get with it. You plug right here in the rear of it in the speaker jack, you've got a cable that you can plug into another 2300, and you can clone one radio to the other so they both have the same thing, or you can plug it into a computer and, you know, get your memory in and out of it that way.
Oh, that's cool. I don't mind putting some of them in, but 200, the extra software to do that might be handy.
It could.
How do you get out of the set mode?
Well, it's easy enough because you might not want to be there looking at mic low all the time.
Oh, I thought that's what we called one of the repeaters.
Mic low? No. To get out of it, first you push Tommy's head out of the way so that you can see the button, and you push the memory right button here, and that gets you back to where you want to be.
This button right here?
That one right there, yeah. There's a speaker in top of this thing. Of course, you can put an external speaker in it as well, and you might want to, because this thing's got a lot of audio power, doesn't it?
Yeah, man, this thing's got 4.5 watts output audio power.
That'd blow your ears smooth off,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
I always run the external speaker on my mobile rigs anyway.
Well, I do too. But 4.5 watts, that means you could get way away from the mobile and still hear that thing going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice too, because I have had some rigs in the past. You know, if you were on a rough road, that road noise is kind of overcome the audio from the rig.
You get it up so loud, and then it just goes to distorting, and it might get a little louder, but you can't understand it because it's just distortion. But 4.5 watts, that'll give you plenty there to overcome any type of noise there. It's got DTMF auto dialer function in it too, and you were talking about this little button over here. That's how you would access those, isn't it?
Yeah, the little round one. If we press this one time, if we had memory banks set up, you could scroll through here and choose the different banks.
So you could set up different groups of memories and then just go to whichever one you want, say if you're in a different area.
Right.
Or you just wanted to scan that one bank.
Right.
Yeah.
So pressing it again takes you back. Holding it down takes you into the option set mode. And what this does is this enables the DTMF auto dialer, so to speak, where it'll send a string of DTMF tones. And you can turn that to turn it on or off. It's really more convenient to use the microphone. So we can enable DTMF mode by using the function and DTMF button right there, and you can see the D changed on the display of the radio. Now if we hit DTMF and 1, it dials.
Okay. So that's simple enough. So you can have pre-programmed codes in there, and then you don't have to sit there and try to punch all these numbers to connect to the dewdrop in or whatever you're trying to connect to, say on Echolink.
Right.
You can just have them pre-programmed, and just one button will do it.
Right. I guess about the last thing we really haven't shown is how to put a memory channel into the radio.
Yeah, we should probably do that. I mean, we've talked about the memory channels, and it's fairly easy to program in this radio, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really easy. Let's go into VFO mode, and we'll go ahead and just enter the other repeater in town, the 146.94 repeater. How about that?
That sounds good. Now, are you going to do that on the face of the rig here, or are you going to use that fancy looking microphone?
Well, I'm going to show you how to do the microphone, but I thought I'd show you on the rig first.
Okay.
And so we can touch the VFO button and change the part of the frequency that we want to change, so if we want to do it fast. So anyway, we could go over here and spin it, do a lot of spinning and get to 146.94, or we can take the quick way out, which is what I like. And if you go to the microphone and you just touch the enter button, which right down here on the bottom right, second from the bottom, or the C, it clears the display, and we'll just punch it in. 1, 4, 6, 9, 4, 0. And you saw we had the automatic repeater function turned on in the settings earlier, so it already put the negative offset for us.
Yeah. Now, how would we we'd need a tone with that too.
We need a tone, so we're going to need to go into the set mode. That repeater has a 100 hertz tone, so we'll go into there, and we'll just scroll down through. This is the one we want. The sub-audible tone is the one with the music note, right? So we'll spin that around to 100. And come out of there by touching the memory right button. And we need to turn on the tone. And there it is.
Okay. And now how do we stick that into a memory channel?
Oh, that's the really easy part. So you need to remember the memory channels we had. We had 0 and 1. So we're going to put this one in memory slot number 2.
Okay.
So to do that, we just hold down, we touch that memory right button. The memory channel will blink. Change it over to 2. You see that's a clear one. And if you hold that down, hold it down for me. Keep till it beeps 3 times. Did it beep? Oh, we have the volume down. But it's there. So let's bring back up the memory. And it's in 2. just like we said.
Easy enough.
Yeah, it doesn't really get too much easier than that, does it?
No, and like we did the alphanumeric codes earlier, we could go back and put the actual call sign to this, or a note saying Raymond, or whatever we wanted, to indicate what this channel was. So yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, it's a nice little rig. I kind of like it. It's some people may, it's only 2 meters. It's not a dual band, and it's not HF and everything. But I'll ask you. I thought about this, but what do you do? Probably 90% of your talking on.
I don't know if it's 90% because I do talk on HF some, but I do at least 50-70% of my talking's on 2 meters.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I probably, because I like, the local stuff. I talk to you and Jimmy and so forth. I spend most of my time on 2 meters, so it's great for local communications. The severe weather nets for your area, things like that, are mostly done on 2 meters. So it's a great band.
Yeah, 2 meters, particularly for anybody getting started out in amateur radio. That's really where I recommend you go to get started. Don't jump straight into HF. You can if you want to, but you're going to miss a lot if you don't spend.
Yeah, most people don't have HF privileges when they get started anyway.
Well, if they're technicians, true. Yeah. So 2 meters is a good place to start. Good little radio. You can find these on the street for less than $200.
Yeah, it's a great price. And man, this thing's got 65 watts of power.
Yeah, that's more than most mobiles have. Typically, I'd say most of them probably 50 watts, but 65, that's just that little bit extra that you might need.
Yeah, a little extra punch.
Yeah, no fan in it. And fans usually not a bad thing. They don't make a lot of racket, but they do make some. More importantly, though, with age, that fan's probably going to get dirty.
Yeah, dirty or start making clicking sounds.
Yep.
And I've actually got one of my old rigs is pretty loud.
Yeah, some of my old ones are too, but this one, no fan needed on it. So great little rig. It has some weight to it, though. It's not a lightweight thing.
Yeah, it's good heavy duty military spec.
Military spec. So if you're looking for a good 2 meter rig, just getting into amateur radio, or you only talk on 2 meters, take a look at the IC 2300H. We think you'll like it.